Welcome back, guys, to the myth of illusions. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing a rather a more spiritual topic, actually, which is, in my opinion, is very common. Especially amongst empaths and light beings, and just you know um, what I've noticed is more common throughout um, the society and the community of South Africans, especially as young Africans, and that is how the empath navigates toxic karmic family connections. Now, empaths navigating toxic family connections face a unique and complex challenge at the intersection of heightened emotional sensitivity and spiritual belief systems around unresolved relational patterns. Understanding this journey requires examining both the psychological vulnerabilities empaths face and the spiritual frameworks that can guide healing. Empaths possess an exceptionally high degree of emotional atonement and absorption capacity, making them particularly susceptible to family toxicity. These individuals don't merely perceive emotions, they genuinely absorb and embody the feelings, thoughts, and physical sensations of those around them, a characteristic that comprises only about 2% of the population. This sensitivity, while a profound strength, creates significant vulnerabilities within toxic family systems. An especially challenging dynamic occurs when empaths with anxious attachment patterns, which emerge from inconsistent caregiving in childhood. This combination, heightened empaths paired with fear of abandonment, creates a fertile ground for toxic relationships. Empaths with anxious attachment often feel an overwhelming sense of responsibility for others' emotions and may tolerate unhealthy behaviors to avoid rejection and abandonment. They frequently mistake the emotional turbulence characteristics of toxic relationships for passion and deep connection, a misconception that keeps them ensnared in harmful dynamics. From a spiritual perspective, karmic relationships extend beyond romantic partnerships into family systems, where they represent unresolved patterns and lessons that transcend individual lifetimes. These connections are characterized by intense emotions, repeating patterns, inexplicable attraction or repulsion, and an inability to easily walk away, even when the relationship causes profound harm. According to this framework, family members are souls we have consciously chosen to incarnate with, to resolve unfinished business and catalyze personal growth. However, empaths often inherit additional karmic layers beyond their personal karmic contracts. One critical factor frequently overlooked is the empath's deep connections to ancestral and family lines. Karmic memory manifests through generation, carrying unresolved trauma, patterns of abandonment, and unprocessed emotional templates through the family system. For female empaths, this might manifest as deeply embedded templates of abandonment and mistreatment stemming from centuries of patriarchal trauma. For the male empaths, different yet equally profound, generational patterns await resolutions. Importantly, Intergenerational research reveals that while parents' maltreatment history is a risk factor, most parents break the cycle of abuse rather than perpetuate it. This suggests resilience and healing are possible even within heavily burdened family systems. A particularly insidious challenge empaths face is what specialists called toxic empathy, an excessive, boundary dissolving form of emotional responsiveness that causes the empath to lose sight of their own needs and well being. Toxic empathy permits the continuation of harmful patterns by providing comfort and validation to toxic family members without consequences, inadvertently rewarding and enabling negative behavior. This dynamic often plays out in a familiar pattern. An empath prepares mentally to set firm boundaries based on months of reflection about repeated violation. However, when confronted with the toxic family member's tears and emotional outpouring, the empath's powerful empathic response overrides all previous decisions. They abandon their reasoning, values, needs, and even awareness of their own hurt to comfort the other person. A transformative perspective involves shifting from viewing empathic sensitivity as a vulnerability to recognizing the empath's power lies within their own internal processing. While traditional advice emphasizing protecting energy through avoidance and visualizing techniques, deeper healing occurs when empaths understand that any energy drain they experience is rooted in their own unprocessed emotions, not in another person's power over them. This distinction is crucial. The toxic family member didn't implant their energy inside the empath. The situation simply activated the empath's pre existing emotional wounds. This reframing moves the locus of control from external to internal, transforming the situation from powerlessness to agency and sovereignty. For empaths with enmeshed family systems where roles, boundaries, and expectations are chronically confused, boundary settings become an act of spiritual integrity, not selfishness. Effective boundary settings for empaths involve several layers: internal reflection through me- meditation and journaling. Empaths clarify what truly serves the highest good, distinguishing between their authentic needs and internalized family expectation. Body based awareness, noticing when feelings of annoyance, resentment, or energy depletion arise signals where boundaries need strengthening. Rebalancing compassion. Empaths must practice equal compassion towards themselves as they naturally extend towards others, often by asking, what advice would I give a trusted friend in this situation? Accepting others' discomfort. Boundaries are defined by the empath's needs, not by how family members respond to them. Critically, feeling guilty about boundaries is not a reliable indicator of wrong action. Guilt is often weaponized in toxic family systems as a control mechanism. Empaths frequently struggle with codependency, patterns where they assume responsibility for others' emotions and happiness while neglecting their own well being. Breaking these cycles requires identifying specific codependent behaviors, difficulty saying no, a fear of rejection, feeling responsible for others' happiness, overprotectiveness, a lack of boundaries, and controlling behavior. The intergenerational nature of codependency means these patterns were likely modeled and normalized from childhood, making them feel like the only way to maintain connection. Yet research on breaking intergenerational cycles show that when parents consciously interrupt these patterns through self-awareness and modeling, they create entirely different relational templates for their children. For empaths specifically, healing toxic karmic family connections involves working with ancestral patterns. The empath's task becomes one of conscious liberation, identifying specific patterns, traumas, and templates inherited from the family line and actively choosing not to perpetuate them. This involves identifying negative personality traits, communication patterns, and behavioral templates inherited from parents and ancestors. Consciously developing the opposite, positive traits to neutralize the inherited patterns, recognizing that family karma is also the individual's karma. It will follow them everywhere until consciously resolved. Understand that breaking the family karmic chain is one of the soul's primary incarnational tasks. Traditional advice to simply cut the cord or avoid toxic family members entirely often fails for empaths, particularly when the connection is a parent or sibling. A more nuanced approach recognizes that karmic bonds exist for transformation, not for indefinite suffering. Spiritual frameworks suggest that these karmic bonds, while painful, represent resonance at a frequency of unhealed trauma and shadow aspects. Rather than escape, the invitation is to look at the shadow part, the unconscious part, through rigorous self reflection. Why does this dynamic resonate with me? What unresolved wounds does this person activate? And what belief about my self-worth makes me susceptible to this treatment? Importantly, this self-reflection doesn't mean accepting abuse. It means healing the internal wounds that made the abuse stick in the first place. For empaths embedded in chaotic or toxic family systems, regular spiritual practices become essential for maintaining connection to their own inner truths. This includes meditation and mindfulness to remain present rather than absorbing family dysfunction, grounding practices to differentiate personal energy from family energy clearing to maintain environmental and psychological hygiene. And lastly, cord cutting visualization for relationships requiring energetic release or where contact remains necessary. Breaking free from toxic karmic family patterns is extraordinarily difficult when attempted alone, particularly for empaths who may have never had their sensitivity validated or understood. Professional support, whether therapy, family counseling, or specialized practitioners who understand both psychology and spiritually becomes invaluable. Research demonstrates that family counseling actively facilitates healing by fostering open communication, empathy, and understanding, while helping family members develop healthier coping mechanisms. For empaths specifically, working with therapists familiar with empathic sensitivity, attachment styles, and spiritual frameworks provides crucial support in differentiating between genuine empathic atonement and trauma bonding. Ultimately, from both psychological and spiritual perspectives, the empath's journey through toxic karmic family connections, while profoundly painful, represents an opportunity for deep evolution. The karmic lessons isn't to become less empathic, it's to develop what researchers call compassion rather than empathy alone. Compassion means understanding another's suffering without absorbing it. It means offering presence without being drained by it. Empaths who successfully navigate this journey emerges not diminished but transformed, grounded in their own authentic needs, capable of boundary setting from a place of self-respect rather than fear, and able to offer genuine support to others without sacrificing their own well-being. This karmic resolution, not escaping family, but becoming free within the family connections. And that was just a research on empathy, on empaths, and karmic family relationships, and how one can maneuver through those dynamics. And if you like this video, this informative video, please like, share, and subscribe. It does help the algorithm. And thank you. Until next time, goodbye.